I'm just going to read you just a little bit out of pieces. I'd like to start off by saying that prison is truly a living hell. It is a place where love and compassion are looked upon as weaknesses, and violence and brutality are worn like a medal of honor. Prison is a tedious path of survival that can shatter your dreams and ambitions. The California Department of Corrections isn't designed to help you rehabilitate yourself or even help you to become a productive law-abiding citizen.
Some meters, be a hoop or a track star, school teacher, scientist, or even on your very own street, maybe even be a rap star. Times with you can change whole pictures, make a better situation for your mother and your big mom. Make dollars on the ride and the house, get it right, use your power, getting everything you did wrong. Then you say, look at where I'm at now, straight poverty, death is in my backyard.
Our top story tonight at 6.
Two teenagers, they broke into a house. For up to me, these two dirtbags would never see the light of day again.
You know, we as a society should not be punitive towards our children. If we as a society make that kind of statement, then we are saying that we don't believe in the inherent good of kids.
You cannot say, well, he didn't learn his lesson, throw him away, flush him down the toilet because he had two chances to learn and he didn't learn. So we're going to flush him down the toilet because of the third mistake.
In California, we now have laws that permit children as young as 14 years old to be tried in the adult criminal justice system and given the same punishments that we would give adults up to and including life without the possibility of parole. A young person who can't be put to death because they're immature, why should they be subjected to life without the possibility of parole? Why should they be treated to adult punishment in the state prison system?
They just don't let lifers out. I mean, some 15 lifers that's gotten out of jail, but 25 life and on up, they're not going to let you out of jail.
The idea was that we had these violent juvenile predators roaming around and street gangs, and we had to get tough on kids and lock them up in order to protect the public.
Another emotional law with juvenile justice because they're talking about crimes.
And Proposition 21 was very successful. It passed 64 to 36% in California.
That just means they're locking up juveniles younger and younger.
I was a member of the Venice Shoreline Crips, and at the age of 17, I went to prison for first-degree murder robbery that I didn't commit. I spent 23 years of my life in prison, and I just was released just recently, over about 11 months ago. Right now, I work for Venice 2000. It's a community-based center. I work with at-risk kids, and trying to get these kids to understand, you know, that gang banging and robbing and stealing, that's not the way that life is supposed to be lived.
There are so many ways that, of course, we know that children should be treated differently from adults. We don't let children watch certain movies. We have an age limit for when it's safe for children to drive cars. We don't let them get married until they're a certain age. We don't let them consent to certain kinds of medical care until a certain age. But somehow, all of the common sense about when it's appropriate to treat children as children is out the window when we're talking about the criminal justice system.
Brain development, especially the frontal cortex, which handles decision-making and judgment, that doesn't fully develop until the early 20s. So to take a 14-year-old or 16-year-old and say, well, because they've committed this horrible crime, we're going to make them an adult or pretend they're an adult, makes absolutely no sense at all and causes, I was about to say enormous damage, but that's an understatement. It really is throwing these kids to the wolves.
They're impulsive, they don't think ahead, they don't plan, they are easily led by negative peer contacts or other negative adult contacts.
If over 75% of the cases had co-defendants, then a lot of the people who end up with life without parole are going to be people who were not necessarily the person who did the murder, who actually physically committed the murder.
There are many youngsters who get kind of caught up in whatever the crime may be, and they tend to be sort of observers. You know, they're not either the shooters, they're not the direct perpetrator.
Okay, so what do we know about adolescents? Well, they do things in groups. You know, the social development that is happening during that time period is something that it's important for them to be interacting in group settings, and that happens when they're doing bad things as well.
I was a gang member from Venice Shoreline Crips when I was about 13 years old. I was running the streets, creating havoc, you know, doing things that young people do when they run the streets.
The question is, what do you do with those crimes? From the prosecutor's perspective, you know, they want incarceration time. They want the victim's interest to be satisfied. But from the interest of the child perspective, we want those auto thieves and burglars to stop doing that stuff. And we want to provide them with what's been missing in their lives, an education, some prospect of a job, an improved family situation.
So when you talk about putting a child into the adult system, you're talking about choosing a system that is really, in California, much more focused on punishment.
California mother is fighting to free her only son after she helped put him in jail for life.
My son was picked up by the San Jose Police Department. The San Jose Police Department called me and said, send us a plane ticket and we'll send him home. And I didn't know that if I said, why don't you just keep him a little bit longer, I wanted him to really have some time to think about what had gone on. And when I did that, I gave up my parental rights. He was there until he was 20 years old.
My tough love is kind of put my son in prison for 25 years, minimum. So I have to keep finding a way to try and get my son out of prison. And a lot of others as well.
Make it personal. So it's not just a name, it's personal. Mm-hmm. And all I did was take some pictures. Of course, some of mine are old pictures, and this thing's like 12 years old now.
Sure, that's
10 years old.
Put it up so they can see it.
But I mean, it's like my son is a person. He's a real person who this happened to. And I think you have to make it personal to somebody else. Mm-hmm. Just throwing out names or throwing out numbers of people that are in prison is one thing, but it's always going to be personal to you.
Yes.
That's why we're here. That's why most of us are doing what we're doing, because it is personal to us.
But I'm never going to be ashamed of my son. Not anymore. Not anymore. I need a break.
These kids have been physically abused, they've been sexually abused, the girls have been raped, They all have some huge abandonment history, either because one or both parents have been in and out of jail, or one or both parents have been in and out of drug use. They've been witness to domestic violence. Again, if you name it, it's been done to them.
And he used to go and visit his father over in Hawaii when he was younger. And unfortunately, and he went almost every summer. One of the things he learned in Hawaii was about drugs. And so by the time he came home, he was about 12 years old, and he had been watching his biological father do drugs in Hawaii. After that, he started doing drugs on his own, at 15, 16 years old, and he was acting out.
And in delinquency, they are going out looking for some kind of structure in the world to give them some sense of hope, even if it's for the moment.
Well, my mother was in and out of prison behind drugs. And my father worked for the city, but he was preoccupied doing other things rather than, being a father at the time. So.
These kids grow up in a world where violence is accepted, violence is the norm, death at an early age is the norm, it is accepted.
California is the worst in the nation when it comes to sentencing young people of color to life without parole.
Very clear to me that there's a lot of discriminatory behavior relative to this particular sentencing, and we've got to somehow eliminate that.
California is a state that prides itself on being diverse and tolerant, and we should be ashamed. We should be ashamed that we're the worst in the nation. It's awful.
Enormously expensive to keep people in prison for years and years and years and years. And the state of California is hurting financially right now, partly because of that.
School and prisons are in the same thing, and the money that he's cutting from these schools is going to the prison. And they need to stop pumping all that money into the prison system and pump it back into the schools.
There are 170,000 people incarcerated in this state. You could expect for that to go up. You're in a death spiral if you cut education.
Years ago, it was like 12 prisons in California, and that's when education had the biggest part of the pie. But now that we have something like 38 prisons, the prison system has the biggest part of the pie, and so the school budget is cut.
They deserve an education. They don't deserve to be in a classroom with 40 kids. They're not going to be the next group to go into some sort of facility or prison.
By cutting education, guess what happens? You do not get high-quality graduates. You increase your dropout rate, which could probably precipitate the increase in crime.
$10,000 to educate a kid and to even still take the money away, but $222,000 to incarcerate them? Those are ridiculous priorities. The values are missing. So that's why we want to fight for education, because the truth is, if we don't educate, we will incarcerate. So the prevention is up front. If we have schools and quality schools, you know what? We won't need prisons at some point in our future.
They're setting up our children for failure. They really are. And I'm here to tell you, please, let's find a different way. Let's not forget about our children.
California's life without parole prison sentencing for a teenager is cruel and unusual punishment. I think it's worse than a death sentence. It's a death sentence by slow decay. It's really, I can't imagine anything worse.
I was born by the river in a little tent. Oh, and just like the river, I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die, 'cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come.
Let the funky beat play. I take my last breath. It's like I'm dead inside. It's like I'm past it. This world I can't describe.
He said money can't buy me love, and that's true. The money can buy me drugs, so that's cool. The best of the worst, skin and raw, one and only, fully loaded, riding dirty, and I'm feeling kinda lonely. Off a wet one, door back, tip in the fifth, punch drunk with the pistol, so I'll probably miss any chance that I had to turn my house to a home. Time's up, game's over, I'm dying alone.
What it is, it ain't me to complain. Cut khakis, brown chucks, white t-shirts and braids. Who your tribe, unexplainable gang?
Bag lady,